Welcome back to Consider This. I'm Melisa Idris speaking to Preetipls, Singapore's social media personalities, Singapore's top everything, right?
Yeah.
Well, you were at the top of, I guess, every Google search headline
Yeah.
a few months ago, given the controversy. Now, I remember reading a piece that Grace Yo wrote for Rice Media, and in it she wrote an article about what had happened, and she said the ad revealed how intrinsic casual racism is the fabric of the Singapore society, and that really struck me.
Yep.
I wanted to ask you, Preeti, is there this intrinsic casual racism, and what you think about it?
Casual racism happens every other day in Singapore. In my personal life even, the amount of microaggressions and the amount of stories I hear from all my brown friends, I think it's insane, and it's about time we have this difficult conversation about race in Singapore. And I'm glad the silver lining about this entire incident was that my video helped spark this conversation that we needed to have for so long. And so many people in Singapore have done so much legwork, have been talking about race for so long. And I think about time we had this conversation on a national scale. So casual racism definitely exists, and I think it's important to try and educate people to the best of our abilities. So even though it's exhausting to be a victim of racism, but then have to come out and just teach someone and tell them that this is not right, maybe you should say this another way.
How do you have that conversation, Preeti? I mean, it's an ongoing conversation for sure.
Yep.
But how do you start having this very difficult conversation, especially because it's so intrinsic and so embedded? Many of us don't even realize that, coming from a position of privilege, from a majority race, sometimes you don't realize what you think is normal behavior is actually racist.
I think for me personally, I've tried to have this conversation and kind of educate people through my videos. So whether it's a song, whether it's my original music, whether it's me joking and laughing about the casual racist comments I receive, I think that's kind of like me bringing attention towards that, hey, this is how it made me feel, this is not okay. I can laugh it off, but not everyone else can. So I think through my platform, that's how I've been showing it. Whether I laugh at myself more than anyone else. So I would like to say I'm Singapore's top self-deprecating person, and I do that in all my videos.
That's not a title you should want to have.
No, I call myself Singapore's top conditional warning receiver. So I'm here to embrace every single title that's going to be put on me.
To own it, own it. Okay. Is it a conversation that only young people are having? Because if you are, I guess, trying to influence a narrative through social media, through online, I'm wondering whether this is a conversation that's almost a bubble in the younger generation, and perhaps not as inclusive to an older generation who may not be as exposed.
I think it's definitely the conversation is sparking from the younger generation, but we can include everyone is included in this conversation.
Okay.
So if it means your interaction with a racist taxi uncle and having to tell him, uncle, actually it's better if you don't say something like that, or I didn't like that, can we not talk about this, or you could have said this better. Even if it means having that difficult conversation as you're trying to get to your destination in a cab,
right,
you got to do it. If you want to try change something, you got to do it.
Have you become the face of getting this conversation going? Become the spokesperson for the misrepresentation of minorities in media?
Unfortunately, maybe. I think I might have. But I'm here to own it, and I'm here to do everything I possibly can with my platform.
Can I ask you what that's done to your rice bowl?
Of course, when the incident kind of blew up, I did lose a couple of gigs, and it was a massive national smear campaign. So my face and my brother's face were everywhere. If you type Preetipls, you don't see any of the work I've done 2 years before. Like in the 3 years of my career, you don't see anything I've said, anything I've done, but you see, all you see is conditional warning, conditional warning. But then again, it's not about me. It's never been about me. It's never been about me. It's never been about my brother. It's not about us. It's always about the big picture here. It's about race in Singapore. It's about people who don't have a platform, and we have the platform. I know how you feel, so I'm here to use my voice and help someone else out.
So I'm getting a sense that race is still a major social cleaver in Singapore, right? And it's something that we Malaysians can relate to as well. We tend to see things through race-tinted lenses, if I may. What about class though, Preeti? Is class a big issue? Is that something that you've touched on in your work as well? Because it's not just a race divide, it can also be a class divide.
I think in Singapore we do talk a lot about privilege, and that doesn't necessarily come with race. It comes with having a certain type of lifestyle
Sure.
and just being able to afford certain things in Singapore. And I think it's just a matter of remembering how to be a little bit more human in your interactions with one another. And whether it's online, whether it's in person, I think that's what we need to focus more on, and kind of just remembering where we all came from and our roots. And you don't need to be stuck under like a CMIO bubble. You don't need a label to like teach you how to be, or teach you how to just be a nice person and treat someone with respect they deserve,
Yeah, that's true, I guess, and I'm glad that you're actually still putting out videos. I mean, the fear is that after conditional warning, that there would be the temptation to self-censor and to kind of hold back, or even just to second guess yourself before you put something out. You're thinking, should I even do this? Can I afford another controversy? What if I get kicked out of the country? What then happens, right? So do you think about that when you're putting your work out there?
I mean, after everything happened, I was a bit wary of my content, but I never wanted to censor myself. I never wanted to censor the things I have to say and the important points I wanted to get across, but I always tried to rephrase certain things or say it in a more subtle way, or keep it in, because in my videos I do this thing where I have Mandarin subtitles that are not accurate at all. So they are deliberately, they're not even translating the things I say. So it is another joke on its own. It's another layer of humor. If you know Mandarin, you read it, I'm saying something completely different.
Okay.
So I've always been able to
getting lost in
be
translation.
subtle. I've always been able to like slide a couple of subtle jokes in there, and I'll always have my ways, but I think...
Do you think satire parody is the best way to get people to think about really difficult issues? I mean, there's also that danger of, the borderline. You're laughing about a really serious issue. Are you taking it seriously enough?
I think as long as you're cautious about what you say, and you're not out here your intentions, you're not out here to offend people, and you're not out here to tell people that, okay, don't hang out with a certain race. That's not what my content says. My content says, hey, here's what's happening, and here's what needs to stop. And yes, we can laugh about it for this long, but think about how your words actually have a certain effect on people, and it's not okay. So it's definitely thought-provoking, and it's going to tell people, I feel like satire is the most thought-provoking kind of humor, because you can easily do slapstick content, but you're just going to get a good laugh and you're going to move on and you're not going to think about it again. And if you stumble upon the video, it's not thought-provoking at all. It's just something where you laugh off and move on. But videos that I do, I feel that gets conversation started, people tag their friends and discuss what's happening. And sometimes in my comment section, you see people actually talking about what's right or what's wrong and having a civil debate, in my comment section.
So you're actually seeing, I think perhaps what your work is doing is just getting the conversation started. Where before it's been a difficult conversation, you don't even know how to bring it up. Have you seen any concrete change, or any kind of tangible effects that's come out from the controversy that's happened to you and your brother?
I think one of the biggest things that came out of it was that our law minister, K. Shanmugam, admitted that racism does exist in Singapore. And I think for a minister to actually step out and say something like that is huge.
Has that not been the case before?
Personally, I've not heard anyone say that. And I think when the moment that happened, the internet kind of blew up. Like, people were sending it to me, they're like, I don't think you see what you've done. I don't think you see the importance of your work and how you've impacted Singapore's like media industry as a whole. But I think you'll realize it eventually.
Well, the first step is always acknowledging the problem, right? You have to acknowledge that there is a problem to be able to deal with it. In the last minute or so, Preeti, what do you hope to achieve? I mean, riding on this kind of all the attention, negative though it may be, and a lot of positive as well, how do you intend to leverage the attention that this has gotten you to perhaps create a more lasting change about the way racism or race is viewed in Singapore?
I think I really hope that everything that has happened to my brother and I hope we encourage the younger generation to keep talking about important things. I hope that I have so many followers that are 14-year-olds. I hope they start talking about race, because when I was 14, I did not talk about race at all. I was just living my life as a secondary school kid. But I hope that now, because our followers and our fans are so young, I hope that this has inspired them to start the conversation that is difficult to have, or speak up if they're getting bullied about their race and how they look. I just hope that this has given them the confidence and courage to say what they want to say and say how they feel.
In hindsight, Preeti, any regrets?
No regrets.
No regrets. You would do it exactly the same way over again? Thank you so much for speaking with me. It has been such a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you so much for having me.
That's all the time we have on Consider This tonight. I will be back with you same time tomorrow night. Thank you for watching. Good night. Thank you, Preeti.
Thank you so much.